Welcome to the podcast, Damon. You're our first world champion guest. Now, you've signed up to ride the Étape, a stage of the Tour de France, raising awareness and funds for Neuro UK. So maybe you could tell us a bit about that challenge and what Neuro UK is.
First of all, I'm a bit shocked that I'm the first world champion, and rather probably slightly disappointingly, the people who've come to listen to us talk about motor racing, I'm going to be talking about cycling, for at least for a bit anyway. But yes, the charity is Neuro UK. So do you remember Professor Sid Watkins, and he set up the Brain Spine Foundation, and out of that grew this new organisation that Peter Hamlin, who worked very closely with Sid, and Alistair Watkins as well, as a little bit involved. So they wanted to do something that grew the Brain Spine Foundation work into something a little bit bigger. And it's to do with tackling the issues of neurological diseases. And it's a huge area of medicine because there are so many different conditions. So if you think of our body is made up of, our heart. So you've got heart conditions, and then you've got the physical cells in our body. So you've got cancers. But of course, the thing that runs the whole of our being really is our brain, our spine, our nerves, and our neurological pathways and so forth. So there's diseases that affect these, and as we know from just recently with cases of motor neuron disease, for example, is one of those conditions which are particularly tragic. But it could be anything to do with anything that relates to the wiring in the body for our nerves. And so Peter Hamlin wants to draw attention to the fact that we have a high level of expertise in this country, and we want to raise awareness and funding to create a centre of excellence using all the expertise we have in this country, who can then develop facilities that will be available. Because if you go to a hospital, you're not going to bump into an expert in the particular neurological condition that you have. So getting hold of the right people and also linking all these people up to the network of hospitals is a big task, and that's really what it is. So it's all on the fundraising page, the Neuro UK fundraising page, so you can check them out.
Fantastic. So what you'll be doing on Saturday of the British Grand Prix weekend then is a stage of the Tour de France. And as I understand it, there are 4 pretty brutal climbs in there. So you're literally doing one of the toughest stages. And what are you, 63 now? How are you feeling? How are you? And how's the training going?
Well, thankfully, I don't feel 63 seems like a very big number. But so far, I feel when I'm on the bike, I feel a lot younger. And then we get a hill. Oddly enough, ironically enough, it's the hills I have a problem with. Yeah, we did. I started getting into cycling. We started doing this for my charity, about 13 years ago. We started fundraising with some people that were fantastic at putting together cycle events for us. And we did a thing called the Halo 250. And that Halo is a small charity that helps people with learning disabilities. And my son's got Down syndrome. So it was a local charity that we put together a ride that went from south of London to Portsmouth. We get on a ferry, we cycle from St Malo to Caen, and then we get on a ferry and come back and we cycle to Guildford. And that raised every year quite a lot of money for our charity. So that's how I got into road cycling. Before that, I was never I didn't want to do road cycling. Anyway, so I was asked if I would support and be an ambassador for the fundraising efforts for Neuro UK at the London Marathon. I said, well, I can't run, so I'm hopeless at running. I can cycle though, and so we'd entered the Étape, which, as you say, is one leg. I'm not sure which stage it is, but it's the stage from Nice up into the mountains. It might even be the last stage of the Tour de France, and it's an amateur event. So the 16,000 cyclists who do it every year have a go. They have a go at riding a day of the Tour de France, and it's about 100 kilometers, but it's got 4 big climbs in it. Last year they had just 2 big climbs, but they were much bigger climbs. So I'm hoping that 4 little ones is going to be a bit easier.
Brilliant stuff. So I saw your teammate from the Williams days, Alain Prost, in Monaco, and he was saying that he's still competing in cycle events at the age of 69. Now, I remember well that you could keep up with him in a Williams F1 car, but what about on a bike?
No, he'd completely take me apart. I mean, he's always been incredibly fit and well built for cycling, especially for climbing. But he does gravel. He does this off-roading that Valtteri Bottas has started doing as well. And it's the latest craze. It's basically like a bike that can go on the road, but can also go on gravels. It's got slightly different tires, very similar frame to this, but built a little bit more ruggedly and able to go down trails and stuff, so they can go through the backcountry and whatnot. So he's entered this thing that he was telling me about, and he's insanely fit. I mean, incredible. So there's motivation for you. But I will never be a climber. I'm too heavy boned. I'm 6 foot. And I just don't have the physique for it. So I'm okay on the flat.
Well, look, it's brilliant that you're doing this fundraiser and raising awareness for Neuro UK. While you're doing the attack, we will all be at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. This is a race you've won, of course. How would you describe to drivers like Lando, Norris and George Russell the feeling of winning at Silverstone?
Well, it's immense, isn't it? I mean, it's the thing you want to do as a British driver, or any driver that wants to win their home Grand Prix, because they'll be immortalised. I mean, Charles Leclerc is now Saint Charles Leclerc of Monaco. I think that he's going to be immortalised for all time as a Monegasque to win the Monaco Grand Prix. Incredible thing. So yeah, British Grand Prix, it's the one to shoot for. They'll get enormous support, and Lewis has done it. How many times has Lewis done it? Come on, these statistics. What's it? 6 times, or was he?
8 victories, in fact.
And so very impressive. I only got the one, but my dad never got it. So we consider that a victory in the Hill household. Not quite the same as winning Monaco 5 times, but British Grand Prix, it's nice to have that one in the trophy cabinet.
Well, we're certainly all looking forward to the event. But staying with Norris, Damon, I'm really interested in your perspective, because you're a deep thinker about this sport, and also you've been in the room where it happens on this. You've been on the journey. Once he's got that first win under his belt, like he did in Miami, tell us a little bit what goes on inside the head, how the confidence grows and how his mindset changes from there.
Yeah, I think there are thresholds that you cross as a racing driver, and they are they are milestones that mean that you can't. They're less like a ratchet. You can't undo it. So if you win a Grand Prix, that's it. It's done. And if you never win a Grand Prix, it's always the longer it goes on, it becomes more and more of an issue. So there were a lot of very good drivers who never won a Grand Prix and perhaps should have done. But there's a bit of luck involved. But once you've won one, then you're on the list of candidates for teams that want to win Grand Prix, really. And so that becomes a very useful thing to have in your CV, and something that gives confidence to the people that hire you. So that, again, it shuts up. I mean, Lando was keen to silence his critics who wanted to make an issue of him not having won. I mean, we're surrounded by criticism today with social media, and there isn't a thing you can do that doesn't get criticized in some way, and you mustn't let that get to you, I think, because you don't want to be defined by people who are determined to diminish you. So, but he did respond to that, but now they can't answer it. I mean, you might say in the last couple of races he could have won and didn't, so he's back to where he was in some ways. But it is difficult to win a Grand Prix, especially when you got someone like Max Verstappen, or in my case, I had Michael Schumacher trying to prevent you. So, yeah, it's you can be the best tennis player, you could be an Andy Murray, and unfortunately, you've got either Federer or Nadal or someone else who comes along, or Djokovic who comes along, and you've got to get past them to get to the finish line.
Okay, so once you've won a race, you feel different about yourself. And clearly the team, as you say, will feel different about him as well. But how does that evolve to the next phase where you want to become a multiple Grand Prix winner and then actually set yourself up for having a tilt at a world championship?
Well, I mean, if you remember how Nico Rosberg behaved when he finally won a championship and how much he extended himself to be able to beat Lewis, it took a lot out of Nico to the point where he decided he wasn't going to do that again. He'd done it. He found out for himself that he could do it, and he's got his one world championship. And I think that there was something in Nico that he understood that in order to beat the guys who are exceptional, it takes so much out of someone who is not as good, to be honest. That's the only way you can, as gifted, maybe, so I would think that both probably George and Lando both believe they're gifted enough. I think they've shown they are gifted enough to deliver a championship if they get the opportunity, but it takes a lot out of you, even if you're the very best. I remember Michael Schumacher after he beat Fangio or equaled Fangio, he was in tears. I mean, he literally was. It takes a lot out of anyone, even if they are the very, very best driver, to keep doing this and keep delivering exceptional performances every time. So, yeah, what will it take for someone like Lando or George? They need the car. You could argue that Lando's got the car now, but I don't think it's better than the Red Bull. I think it's possibly as good. So that will be he's going to need a bit more than that, I think, from the car to be able to reduce the deficit to Max and stop Max winning. That's the only way you're going to turn this into a close championship by the end.
Do you think, from what you see, that Lando has it in him to make that journey?
Yeah, I think he has it. I think they all have it in. The point is this: that is the test. It's a human test of resources of. That's why we do sport. We want to see what people have got, and certain people, like if you talk about Messi or some of the great footballers, they make it look easy. They somehow, it's just incredible. They sell a hot knife through butter, and you're not going to know until they start to continually deliver race results and then cross that final hurdle. As I was saying about winning a Grand Prix, it can become a psychological barrier. I mean, we talk about psychology in sport, and you think about Rory McIlroy and winning another Masters, another major. I mean, there's nothing more mind crushing than golf. It's an absurdly difficult game to master, and it's all, when you get to that level, it is really down to what's in your head and whether you've built up a bogeyman over time because you haven't crossed the threshold. So it will be important for someone like Lando or George to get themselves in a consistent winning car and start delivering and start beating the other guy who will be there to stop them.
And do you see George Russell the same sort of way? I mean, do you think George has it in him also to go on and win a world championship?
I think he does. I think he's a little different in his makeup to Lando. He's got the speed. I think he's shown himself to be a little bit impatient at times and fired up, but that's a good thing. I think there's been plenty of drivers who are very impatient. I mean, I think of a certain Ayrton Senna who was pretty impatient if he didn't get what he wanted. So I don't think it's a bad thing.
So this is the last British Grand Prix for Lewis Hamilton in the silver and black of Mercedes. As you say, he's been very successful at the British Grand Prix, 8 victories, in fact, in that race, as he has been all over the world. But next season, he'll be racing for Ferrari, who won their first ever Grand Prix back in 1951 at Silverstone. Just give us an idea then of how you feel Lewis in red will be for himself and also for the fans.
I think it's the biggest story. I mean, he is the biggest name in the sport. I mean, I know Max is brilliant, and I think he will win loads and loads and possibly even rival Lewis's level of tally of titles and stuff. But Lewis is huge as a brand, as a person, as someone who's also brought in other dimensions to Formula One, notably, of course, the Black Lives Matter episode and the era when he was campaigning to make a stand against unfairness and injustice, and I think that showed he's a megastar really in the world of human rights and not just a brilliant driver. So he's brought in other aspects which make him have enormous gravitas. And so when he goes to Ferrari, the two brands together, I mean, it will be very, very. It's not going to be easy, I don't think, but I think it's going to be great to see a change there. Be difficult for him because at the moment Mercedes look like they're doing better, and they may even have a very good power unit if this power unit change ever happens. they keep kind of dithering over every regulation change at the moment, don't they? People are pulling and pushing in different directions. All the teams are trying to trip everyone up before they get to the final decision at the moment. But so yeah, making a decision which team to go for is going to be very difficult. And I think he probably, after Barcelona, he probably came away from that race thinking, "Oops, I would rather be in a Mercedes." So I hope he's made the right choice.
Well, time will tell. It'll certainly be interesting to see the grandstands at Silverstone, to see whether there's more red in them, as well as tracks around the world. But it's going to be quite an interesting few years, isn't it?
I think it's got a good car for Silverstone. I think they've come good at the right time for that particular track. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why British fans should get excited about going to Silverstone this year.
So the first half of this season has been less Verstappen dominated in a way than perhaps we feared after the opening couple of rounds. But nevertheless, he has got a pretty healthy grip and a points lead on the championship. I wonder, do you see the field closing up in the second half of the season? Do you see a credible challenge for the title coming?
Yeah, it's like they've with the new regulations. I think they're starting to play their part. The cost cap and the regulations governing the amount of wind tunnel time, and the people who have the most success, in this case Red Bull, are finding it difficult to squeeze more juice out of their limited time that they have to develop the car. So I think that's allowing teams to catch up. Teams have got resources, have more a bit of availability to do development as well. So these new set of regs are meaning that it's almost impossible to get away, I think, and that will be good for everyone. It'll be interesting to see who makes the best use of their extra wind tunnel time.
One final question, Damon, before we let you get back to your altitude training on your bike. We've seen a huge influx of new fans to Formula One over the last 5 years, more female, younger, and obviously particularly in the US. But we see it also all over the world, really. And Formula One itself is very keen for these new fans to kind of delve down into the history of the sport and look back at clips of drivers and champions from the past.
Discover old drivers like me.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my question. I mean, I wonder, as a world champion from the 1990s, how do the new fans engage with you compared to the traditional fans?
Yeah, listen, everyone wants to know the drivers who are currently driving. It's become huge, and we know what we're talking about. We're talking about the effect of Netflix. I mean, it mustn't take anything away from Liberty, because I think Liberty have also allowed more access, availability, social media wise. It was very restricted under Bernie. I don't think Bernie understood that if you give a lot of free samples, he should have understood this, because they used to do this with cigarettes. For goodness sakes, they used to dish out free cigarettes, and you get people wanting to buy more of their cigarettes. But the opening up of the ability for people to join in and post their own social stuff on Formula One has meant that the audience has grown massively, and it's all about who's in the Netflix show right now. But I think you can get to know. It's created stars out of drivers who maybe were further down the grid because their personalities, and they're not. I mean, I love watching Valtteri. I mean, where the hell has Valtteri been when he was Mercedes? He's hilarious. I mean, he's obviously a very good driver, but I mean, some of the social stuff he's done has been absolutely hysterical and he's a great actor. He should definitely get some other roles in some sort of Hollywood tongue-in-cheek film somewhere.
And what about the way they engage with you then? Is it a different kind of engagement?
Yeah, I think I'm old enough to be their dad, so I think they're probably a little bit. Every now and then I get. I think Alonso gave me a tap on the bum on the grid in Spain, and Lewis every now and then pops in and says something, or but I don't have any length of time with them. They're very busy. So we've done. That's not true. Actually, we've done some good stuff with Sky. We've done some good golfing things with Lando and Carlos, and occasional relaxing bits and pieces where you can get to know them a bit better. But they're not interested in how it used to be. I mean, I will say Ollie Behrman chatted to him. I'm making a case against myself, aren't I? Really? They all. Ollie Behrman actually was very keen to know what it was like in my day, and I think if they had more time, they would probably ask me a few questions. But no, I let them get on with their life.
I'll never forget 1991. I was at Monza. Phil Hill was there, and I was chatting to him, and I said, "Do you want me to introduce you to Senna?" And he said, "Oh no, he won't know who I am." And I said, "No, he absolutely will know who you are." And I introduced him, and sure enough, Senna knew all about him. He knew he was the 1961 world champion, that he drove a shark-nosed Ferrari. He knew a whole thing. Like other people like him, I guess, like Vettel. There are a few others who are really kind of know their history. It's really great to see.
Yeah, you mentioned Vettel, but I mean, he got me in because he bought one of my dad's crash helmets. He wanted me to come and verify it. So, he knows that everything. He can recite all the winners backwards, can't he? From today, yeah. So yeah, there are some drivers who got a very deep interest, but then what can you learn? I mean, when I was racing, I wanted to learn from. Obviously, having a dad who was a racing driver, I would have spent as much time as I possibly could around racing drivers, learning from them if I could. But we've missed people like Nicky. Nicky was always very good at popping in and having the odd word. And James Hunt used to give me the occasional tip as well when I was just started, and he was still commentating. And so, you do appreciate it as a driver. But then you get the other side where you've got some drivers who like to have a little dig in the press, and you read something and it's taken out a bit out of context, and it can get a bit awkward. So I'm not so happy about being critical, but because it tends to get out of hand, and with social media today, you get trolled to death.
Well, listen, Damon, we'll let you get back on your bike, as they say. So people should go to your Just Giving page if they want to donate to Neuro UK.
I'll post it on my social media, and you can follow it all. My Twitter handle is @HillF1, and you might be able to find the link to the Just Giving page on there. I'll try and put it there. Or my Instagram is 96F1 champ. 96F1 champ. So I'll try and put a link through on both of those, and then you can do what you want to do. I mean, be good if you could donate. I'm going to try and get to the end. If I don't get to the end, I can't give you money back.
Damon, good luck with your stage of the Etape, and look forward to hearing all about it.
Enjoy your British Grand Prix. And I'm sorry I won't be there. I'll be up a mountain in France.